So we now are going into the release of the impact report. And before I get into any further details, I'd like to invite one of my partners in crime in this activity, Niranjana Rajgopal, who herself she's a leadership advisor and she's a member of the Diaspora residing in Chicago, Illinois. So Niranjana, glad to have you up on stage. The report is India and its Diaspora Partners in Progress, supporting India's journey to 2047. Let me take a step back and tell you a little bit about how this came about. Indiaspora has done two impact reports already, in conjunction with BCG, or the Boston Consulting Group. We did our first report 2 years ago, which chronicled the Indian diaspora in the United States, how they positively impact society in America across a variety of different realms: business, arts, culture, philanthropy, entrepreneurship, and various other things, sports, culture, cuisine, etc. We followed that up with a report released last year in Abu Dhabi about the Indian diaspora in the UAE, how they impact the UAE positively, and how they also strengthen the corridor between India and that country, whether it's the US or the UAE. Today, we are releasing our third impact report. Niranjana is one of my co-authors. That report talks about the Indian diaspora globally, how they have worked with India, and what we can do in the future. One thing I want to do before I move on to the next slide is you'll see the artwork here behind me on the screen. We have a wonderful young artist who has helped us with our artwork on the previous three impact reports. Gina Raghavan, I see you here. Take a bow, please. And many of you, if you haven't seen it already, I encourage you to take a look at the painting outside, the larger version of this painting that is hung up on the walls outside. Moving to the next slide. What is the objective of the report and why are we doing it now? So like I alluded to earlier, we want to celebrate what the diaspora has done with India, the global diaspora, but we also want to reimagine what they can do towards a developed India in 2047, 100 years after she achieved independence. And both the diaspora and India, in different ways, are at inflection points, and that's the why now, right? Various sources of insight were used to create this report. We used experts and we had surveys both with the global diaspora in different countries, as well as folks in India. We had 200 people surveyed from the diaspora. An additional 40 were interviewed via Zoom calls or in person, experts in many different fields of activity from 12 countries. And from India, again, a lot of different experts in different fields were spoken with, and 40 NGOs, non-governmental organizations, were surveyed about how they view diaspora philanthropy incoming into India. Now, some salient facts about the diaspora. The Indian diaspora right now, all across the world, is the largest in human history, right? There's 35 million people of Indian origin in more than 200 countries around the world. The Indian diaspora is not monolithic. We, in our report and in our survey, we spoke with 5th, 6th, 7th generation people of Indian origin in different countries. We also spoke with recent immigrants from India to countries who have now gone on to positions of influence and power in academics, in the arts, in business, in technology, so on and so forth. $730 billion US dollars, $730 billion US dollars is the income earned by the global Indian diaspora. And there's an economic model that we employed towards getting this number. This, by the way, does not count income from assets. If we had counted that, it would have been even higher, right? And in terms of remittances, I was speaking very briefly with you, Geeta, as we were walking in. You mentioned remittances as well. In terms of remittances, $138 billion are sent annually by the diaspora to India, right? This is 47% of India's goods trade deficit, and it far outpaces foreign direct investment or FDI into India. So that's an important source of financial flow inbound into India. But for more details about what this report contains, let me hand it over now to Niranjana.
Thank you, Sanjeev. One of the most interesting insights that emerged from our report was the fact that 60% of the diaspora that we surveyed stated that staying connected with their roots was the most important factor in engaging with India. A recent example brings this to life. Here we see Antonio Costa proudly holding up his OCI card at the recent signing of the India-European FTA in January. And he said, "I am the president of the European Council, but I'm also an overseas citizen of India. This connection between Europe and India is personal to me." There are many forms that the diaspora connection with India takes, and let's explore a few of them together. First, in business, we've of course seen headlines every year of major FDI announcements, often by Indian origin CEOs. And the diaspora is also involved at the other end of the spectrum with India's startup ecosystem. Indian origin angel investors from 56 countries have written many Indian startups their first check. In fact, 75% or 3 out of 4 overseas angel investors in India are from the diaspora. So that's business. Philanthropy too tells a powerful story. Philanthropy is the pathway through which the diaspora most engages with India today. Our survey of NGOs showed that 60% of NGOs have raised funds from individual diaspora donors, and 52% of them have leveraged diaspora connections for institutional funding. And the diaspora plays a role beyond just funding. They also support the social sector through volunteering or strategic advice on boards, and even ideas. Lord Karan Bilimoria, who's with us somewhere today, he shared an idea that he had come up with many years ago at the UK-India Roundtable. They were discussing how to improve schooling in India, and he suggested adapting UK's Teach First model. From that conversation was born Teach for India, with Anu Aga jumping on board and leading it. In academia and research too, we find the involvement of the diaspora. Professor Tarun Khanna was one of the experts we spoke with, and he said that for India to reach its 2047 economic objectives, significant investment in domestic research is needed. Today, 1 in 5 Indian research publications with an overseas collaborator are with a member of the diaspora. And the diaspora has also played a role in innovating research operating models, cross-border research operating models with India. Professor Pradeep Khosla shared with us that when he received $70 million in funding to establish the Tata Institute for Genetics and Society, he chose to establish the institute both in India and the US, so that Indian researchers could be trained at the frontier and bring back those capabilities. And finally, we have culture and society, where the diaspora plays a role as ambassadors and advocates, as patrons and collaborators. There are numerous examples around food and fashion, from the arts and sports. One that we would like to highlight here today is the India Pride Project, which is a powerful model of diaspora advocacy. These are a group of diaspora volunteers globally who trace stolen artifacts, lobby international authorities, and have successfully facilitated the return of over 600 priceless artifacts back to their homeland. So there are many ways that the diaspora engages with India, and you'll find many case examples and stories and data points in our report. But let's take a peek into the future and imagine the possibilities together. And for that, let me hand it back to Sanjeev.
Yeah, thanks, Niranjana. there are two types of recommendations that our report goes into. The first of those two types, the first category, is what India can do to harness diaspora potential towards its own developed status in 2047. And we subdivide that into three parts. The first is identity. India would do better to strengthen formal linkages that the diaspora can have with India. By that, I mean a more powerful OCI, Overseas Citizen of India card, for example. Potentially, dual citizenship, although I know that that idea has a lot around it that needs to be explored. Exposure is the second element. India would do well, to attract diverse, multi-generational tourists to keep the connections going with India into the second, third, fourth, fifth generation of the diaspora. India is rapidly evolving, and the diaspora needs to be abreast of the evolutions in India. The last is contribution. It would be outstanding if India could reduce friction specifically aimed to facilitate diaspora engagement across different fields: business, technology, arts, investments, culture, you name it. The second category of recommendations that we have is what the diaspora can do to engage better with India. And there are 5 elements of that here. The first is starting with self, starting with ourselves as individuals. I'll give you one example. Sridhar Iyengar, who is an Indiaspora member, is here somewhere with us today in the audience. And he insists that it's important not to experience India in a bubble, but to experience it holistically. Like I said, India is changing rapidly, and we as the diaspora need to keep up mentally and emotionally with those changes. Second, extend this to your family. It is also incumbent upon the diaspora to continue that multi-generational connect with India, with their children, grandchildren, so on and so forth. Third, organize at the community level. Organize locally in your countries. Another example, we have today with us from Mauritius, Baljinder Sharma, sitting here somewhere. And, oh, there he is, Baljinder. And Baljinder is the chairman of the India-Africa Entrepreneurs Forum, which he has run for a while and really does excellent work in entrepreneurship and connecting Indian diaspora all across Africa. The fourth area is engaging your country of residence. And by that, I mean the diaspora should align their voice, their access to the political establishment, and a narrative, weave a narrative. Now, like I said earlier, we recognize that the diaspora is not a monolith. But having said that, we also believe that there are some issues and some areas and some topics where it would benefit the corridor between India and that country if the diaspora could speak with a collective voice. And the last area is building a bridge with India. This actually applies to all of us, all of you here today. Indiaspora and other organizations like us serve as a living bridge between various countries in India, and we are, as I mentioned earlier, a platform for knowledge exchange. Now, the last thing that we did in our report was to ask our various people who responded to our surveys, our interviewees, etc., what are your aspirations for a developed India in 2047? We created a word cloud based on what they had said, and there's a lot in this to unpack. We can't go through it all at the moment, but there are 3 things that I will point to. The first is, of course, they want India to be an economic power. In fact, at our event, you will see a session on the Great Indian Growth Story, which is about India's economic ascent. The second, very opposite in today's times, they would like to see India as a global power geopolitically. There is a session here at our event about the multipolar world. And lastly, they talked about AI and technology leadership for India to assume that space. Many of you will be here with us 2 days from now on the 25th at this very venue at the Indiaspora AI Summit. Now, along with Niranjana and myself, we have 4 other co-authors of this impact report, and I'd like for them to come up as I call them up. This moment will serve as the official release, and so it's a heads up to all the media in the room, will serve as the official release of the impact report today. I'd like to start by calling up Namrata Rajgopal, who is the founder of Exception Raised, a grant institute for research. Namrata will also be a speaker at the AI Summit, and she happens to be Niranjana's sister. I'll call up next Shobha Vishwanathan. Shobha is joining us from outside New York City, where she lives. She's one of our co-authors. She's the Chief Community Engagement Officer and Executive VP at Indiaspora. Next, I'll call up Shri Kumar Nair. Shri Kumar is our Indiaspora CEO in India, and he's also in charge of our work in the Eastern Hemisphere. And last but not least, I'm going to add to your step count, MR. MR, you need to come up to the stage, please. So let's unveil the impact report.
Yeah. Give it to MR.
MR, open the ribbon. Oh.
There's also sellotape, so.
I think I need a pair of scissors. Nicely.
Not doing a very good job of opening this up right now.
You don't know how to open the bottle yet.
Yeah, let me pass it. Yeah. Shobha. Thank you.
No, there's another copy in there. We need another copy.
Yeah, we're just waiting for Angie to get one.
Thank you. Thank you. And so this is, ladies and gentlemen, the official release of the Indiaspora Impact Report. They're asking us to move this way.
Better?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as you, MR, I'm going to request you actually to stay on the stage because you have a panel coming up. And this is the QR code, by the way, as we are all getting off the stage except for MR. You can scan this QR code to download the report. So MR, you can bring up your panel now.